Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hi, I'm Pete. Ba, 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 ba. I talk loud. Say something, Hillary.
Good morning. I'm Hillary. I put up with a lot.
Hillary's going to market today. We got to pack up.
Yep. Cold day, though.
Yep. Hens are laying more. How many dozen for egg for market today?
29. We're up to 29.
We don't need any ice in the coolers today. How many stew hens do you want, Hill?
6. I think that'll be
6?
good.
Okay. We're getting kind of low on stew hens. Bye-bye, Hillary. Good luck at market. That's as content as you'll ever see Patty. What's going on in here? You guys are snoozing. Hi, Brownie. Here, little guy. Oh, you're stiff from sleeping. Billy has become my little buddy. He is about the friendliest boar I've ever raised. You are. Look at how long you are. Does the camera make you nervous? You keep looking at it. You're not used to it. But you sure do love that behind the ear scratch. JJ, you got up. Nice to see you, bud. Little update on Bossy Pig and JJ. Hi, Bossy Pig. She's been in with JJ for more than one heat cycle now. We haven't seen any action, but that doesn't mean there wasn't any. Sometimes we don't see it. My guess is that she's bred being in this long, but we're going to leave JJ in with her. There's no harm in doing that. What are you doing? Oh, I don't know. I don't think she's in heat right now. What a pleasant day. 25 degrees, a little windy, a little snow. Yep. What do we got going on here? What is this mess? Am I using tractor exhaust to heat my shop? Look at all that ducting. Now it's time for a hard right turn in the video. I'm switching from animals and going to market and things to tractor maintenance, and I'm aware that some people are interested in one thing or the other, but my life is all this stuff together, so that's going to be the rest of the video. I'm all set up to test this Farmall 756's MCV valve, and it's complicated, so I'm going to walk the line here between this being an instructional video and it just being for entertainment purposes. I'm not going to give you all the details, but the basic process, and you need the books for the rest of the information. In a nutshell, behind this cover right here are a whole bunch of passages, kind of like the valve body in an automatic transmission, and then there's a 9 gallon per minute pump that piggybacks on the back of this whole assembly here. And I'm now going to greatly oversimplify how this whole system works. The pump puts out 9 GPM, 9 gallons per minute. And it does, let's see, 4 things. It provides power steering, it provides brakes, it provides hydraulics to the torque amplifier, the kind of power shift system in these tractors to hydraulically engage the clutches on either side of the TA, low or high. And it provides lubrication back to the transmission and final drive gears, and it provides pressure to run up to the cooling radiator for the hydraulic system up front. Is that 5, 4? I don't know. You can count. Now, of those 9 gallons per minute that the pump's producing, 3 gallons per minute is going to run the power steering, the brakes, and the torque amplifier. The other 6 gallons per minute is running to the transmission cooler and to lubricate the gears in the rear end of the tractor. Of those 3 gallons per minute, first there's priorities, and there's valves and pressure regulators and things in there to do this. First priority is power steering, and it sends the 3 gallons per minute to the power steering first. What comes back from the power steering then goes, 1 gallon goes to the brakes that's coming back from the power steering. It provides power assist for the brakes. And then the third priority is lubricating and locking the clutches in the TA. So those 3 things are being accomplished in that order. And then the rest of whatever's left over from those operations is going back and also providing lubrication to the transmission. Now, I might have messed up a detail or two, and I'll tell you what, the best way to learn this stuff is not by me talking to you in a video, but by getting this book. This is the service manual for the hydraulic system on this tractor, and it's a fat thing. It's 50-something pages long and part of this big book, and it goes through in great detail exactly how this system works, diagrams for flow, and all that stuff. So if you're working on one of these tractors, get one of these books. Now, when I bought this tractor, all this hydraulic business worked great because it was running cold. The TA locks up right away. Everything works as it should. But I found when I was making hay last summer, when the tractor was all warmed up and it was hot weather outside, that after the tractor got nice and warm, the dump valve light on the dash would light up even when the clutch was out. And I guess I better explain the dump valve light. When you go to change gears in the tractor and you press on the clutch to put it in neutral, the dump valve light comes on, and that's connected to a sensor down here in the MCV. And what the dump valve does, it dumps pressure to the torque amplifier. Remember that power shift system. It dumps pressure to the clutches so things can roll around a little bit as you switch it into gear, so that if it's on a tooth or not quite in the right position to change, the transmission can turn a little bit to do that. Well, that light was staying on even after I let out the clutch, which indicates there's a low pressure situation someplace in the MCV when the oil in the tractor, the transmission oil, gets hot and thin. It's not a problem with the TA. I have very little belief that it's any problem with the TA. It's something to do, because the TA runs great when it's cold, with some pressure regulator or pump output in here. So today, we're going to diagnose it in an intelligent way, not just start tearing into things and, ripping pieces out and replacing them. Oh, and I got to mention too, one other thing that it did when the tractor was all warmed up in hot weather is the TA was slow to shift from the back TA position into direct drive. So you'd shift the lever and it was like a lazy automatic transmission. It would go into gear. And that's why I'm saying, some people would say, oh, it's the TA, you need to replace the TA. It's not. Going back to the service manual, there's 2 sets of checks in the service manual. There's what I would call a soft check, where you look at the symptoms that you have, and there's lots of different cases on these pages, and it'll tell you what may be the problem. So immediately, right on here of the kind of soft system, all 3 of it steers, it brakes, it shifts the TA, it lubricates. But when it gets hot, if you go down to case number 3 here, if the power steering is working, but the tail light, the clutch dump valve tail light, comes on at 1200 to 1500 RPM when fluid is hot, my situation, the sump check is probably leaking or the MCV pump is at fault. There's 2 probable problems right off the bat. So having that kind of soft diagnosis, I can move on to step 2. And what you do, and this is exactly the way that the book tells you to do it, is you get a 0 to 300 psi hydraulic gauge and a 60 psi max hydraulic gauge, and you hook the 300 psi gauge into the safety valve port in the bottom of the MCV, and you hook the 60 psi gauge into the same port that the sensor goes that activates the tail light. And then, right by the book here, you want to check pressure with the tractor running at 1000 RPM. And there's a bunch of things you want to check. Drive selector and TA, move it to an intermediate position until you get a low pressure. Drive selector and direct drive. This is my power shift system. You want to steer it to the stops till the steering wheel won't turn anymore, and look at the pressure there. And then with the brakes applied. We'll run through the test now. I'm going to do two. I'm going to do one just after startup when everything's cold. Let the tractor get good and warm. Do a second test, record the readings. It's easier to do this if you have long enough hose on your gauges so you can get them up here where you can see them, or to have a helper go through the paces when you're doing it. But I have a helper. It's the camera, and I'm going to use that to record the readings. Let's go. Come on, baby. She don't like the cold. This is my El Cheapo aluminum exhaust diverter so I don't get smoked out in here. Get ripped. We can fix it though. Just try not to rev the tractor so high that it tears at it like that. Jeez, I should have brought some ribs out. I could have smoked them for dinner. First reading, TA back. Moving TA forward, slowly. And TA forward. Steering to the stops. And finally, putting on the brakes. Get the tractor warmed up some. Getting warm. I've noticed the speed gauge is actually falling a few points. This transmission will warm up even though I'm not driving around, just with the gears spinning and the pump pumping. She's been running for about 45 minutes at 1,000 RPMs. Temperature gauge come up, sits down here when it's cold, but it's not obviously up where it would be in the summer. Transmission cases are warm to the touch, not hot, just warm. Incidentally, here's what happens when you push in the clutch and dump it. The LR gauge on the right-hand side goes to 0. You're dumping pressure. Time to evaluate the results. What are the results of all this testing? Well, I went back in the house and had some lunch and looked at the numbers and chewed on them a little bit. I'll put them up on the screen here so you can see what they were. You can freeze the screen if you want to study them more carefully. I took my pressure readings and I went through all the scenarios that are in the book here and looked for a match. And I guess I learned a couple things. Number one, this MCV has the later springs in it that move the regulated pressure up because my high pressure readings fit those characteristics, regulated around 250 or so with a 20 psi difference between readings. Those are kind of that's the regulated pressure range in general. The other thing is a couple of the scenarios apply that are in the book, but really marginally. I mean, just barely squeaking by as far as pressure readings. So I really don't think any of those apply all that much. And then I started to look at it more, okay, how does this system work? And remember, I started out by saying the first thing it does is supply the steering, then it supplies the brakes, then it supplies the torque amplifier clutches in that system. And then anything that's left after it's done all those things comes back through the lower pressure gauge circuit, the lube regulator circuit. And what I saw between when I took the cold readings and when I took the hot readings is that lube regulator pressure was running around 21 or 21 pounds cold. And then after it warmed up a while, it dropped down to 18, 17, 19. So it lost a significant percentage of its pressure from that warm-up. And I expect that trend would continue as the tractor was really warmed up, say cutting or baling hay on a warm day. And that tail light switches on at less than 5 psi for that lube regulator, this 60-pound pressure gauge reading. So I think that's the cause of my problem. Now, if you think about how the system works, since that lube regulator is at the end of the line, I must not be getting enough volume from my pump at pressure to bring everything through. So the first thing that kind of starves when the oil gets thin and the pump can't keep up with demand is a lube regulator, and the light comes on. And the next thing up the line that would start to starve are the hydraulic clutches. And that's what I see when I run it hot, is when I push the TA from TA to direct drive, I get a lag in engagement. I get a slow hydraulic response. And that tells me that probably the pump is worn. So what am I going to wind up doing here? Well, I'm going to wind up just buying an MCV rebuild kit, which includes a new pump and all the little doodads that go in there, the pressure regulating springs and O-rings and all that stuff. Take it apart, clean it up, and redo it, which is probably would have been the end result no matter what I'd found in here, except if it had indicated I had a bad TA, then I'd start looking down that route. But I don't see anything in here that indicates that as far as the results go. So that's where we are. This is the first step in getting in and fixing all this stuff on the 756. I hope this video is informative. It's kind of interesting trying to read the tea leaves here. That's what it's really like. I'll see you next time.